So AI is a topic everybody's obsessed with now, and I think appropriately so. It's not just important, but I think it's become relevant. It's become real. If you turn back a few years, maybe there was a little marketing hype in cybersecurity around AI, but I think that that's changed. I think this is real. Today I have an expert here. We're going to talk a little bit about how we access AI through SaaS and through shadow. So if you're a CISO listening and you're wondering, do I have the right guardrails around how AI might be leveraged by employees, stakeholders, and others, then stick around. So we're going to address a topic that I think is one of the seams that you may have either underestimated or maybe you just haven't known the proper solution. So stick around. I think we might be able to help you. Hi, Ed Amoroso from TAG. I'm here with my good friend Russ Spitler, who is the co-founder of a company called Nudge Security. But today we're going to talk a little less about security, more about AI and access to AI apps through SaaS infrastructure. Russ is an expert. And Russ, we're here to talk AI security a little bit today.
Excited, Ed.
Now, a couple words about Nudge Security. You guys are kind of in the business of reducing SaaS risk. Is that the main focus there?
Yeah, as a whole, Nudge Security is there to help organizations get a managed hand on what SaaS their employees are using and how to govern the risk related to the use of that SaaS.
Been a big oversight for a lot of security teams, I would say.
It's been an area that has kind of popped up overnight for the last 10 years. So we're certainly in a place now where there's a lot of risk and the investment is just really starting.
Got it. Now, AI apps or AI SaaS, I guess that's a lot of A's and S's in there somehow. But I think that when security teams are taking inventory of AI usage today, it seems like they start with kind of generative AI LLMs like ChatGPT, and they'll say, "Where are we using it? ChatGPT. Who's using it to leak our data?" You know, like typing some sensitive thing and it goes off to ChatGPT. That's like ground zero for a lot of folks. But I don't think they spend enough time, and you'll have to help me with some insight here. Enough time trying to understand, what is that SaaS footprint? What applications are they using? And to what degree might they be hitting AI applications that you hadn't even thought existed? What's your experience there? What do you see on the ground?
So a lot of our customers leverage our technology in order to help find use of AI tools within their employee base. Right. And one of the really interesting...
Is tool and app the same thing, or are they different?
To us, we call it an AI tool when it's sort of more of a pure play generative AI. The challenge is, of course, that a lot of the sort of major providers are now powering AI features in other apps underneath the hood.
So it might be a little difference between tool and app.
That's absolutely fair.
Got it. Okay.
And so what we observe is that this is the ultimate promise of SaaS, which is this is a tool that'll help you, or an app, that'll make you more productive. It's going to get your job done. You're going to go spend more time with your dogs and your kids, right?
Right. I do it every day.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's beautiful. However, what we have seen is employees aren't waiting for the corporation to come out and say, here's the official AI tool set that you can use. They're signing up for literally everything they can. And not only are they signing up for it, but they're giving it programmatic access to data. OAuth grants, API keys, you want access to my source code? Here you go, click, click, right? And the end result of that is you have a massive explosion of very small companies with very broad access to very sensitive corporate information being used through essentially employee free will, right? And that disconnect is huge in most organizations in terms of how they expect it to be used in the reality.
This happened with cloud 10 years ago? I mean, is this deja vu all over again, sort of?
I think we're in a pretty similar spot when AWS first got in the spotlight.
Right?
Yeah, all of a sudden you didn't have to wait for somebody to rack a server, you could spin something up.
Were you guys able to learn from that, or is this a different problem?
I think it's a similar problem, which is the first challenge a lot of organizations are doing is like, let's just stamp it out and nobody's ever going to use it. Well, that only lasts for a few months before, some business unit makes the quarter because they were using AWS. Well, similarly now, some people are seeing incredible productivity and effective use of AI, and so the idea of just turning it off is not a feasible one.
What would be an indicator that would help you understand that it's an AI app versus some other type of application?
So we have sort of two mechanisms for detecting. One is we've built some systems that allow us to automatically process terms of service, DPAs, privacy policies, that allow us to get insight to when standard business services integrate things like Anthropic or OpenAI into their DPAs and their data processor lists. The other category is really about the sort of more pure play generative AI tools, which are, coding assistance, image generation, PowerPoint creation, things along those lines. And so we tend to call that second bucket, AI tools as their purpose built is generating content for you all. And then that first bucket, we have visibility into those supply chain, and so we show you kind of that sort of supply chain exposure to AI as well.
What is it? Is it the security team, development team, some governance team, maybe all of the above that would show interest in this?
What we have seen is really, it's often a sort of AI SWAT team within the organization.
I see that too.
The special team, and they pull across, legal and security and compliance, and usually engineering as well, or the CIO's team. In order to how do we effectively enable it? Because I don't think there's many organizations out there who say that we're just going to sit this one out. They're trying to embrace it. And so it's that cross-functional team that typically wants to get a handle on who's using what and how it's being leveraged today.
Do they have any, is there budget there? I always worry when I hear SWAT team that there's a need, there's an interest, there's a demand, and there's no budget. Are we in that kind of transitional period? Because I would think the CISO would fund the kinds of things that you're selling, but maybe it'd be SWAT team driven, security team funded, or how does that work?
Well, certainly our experience is that this might be the initial interest, but we have a broad appeal because this is really just one example of the challenges of having third parties that you don't know about with access to your data, which is the rest of the SaaS applications your employees are using. And so often you're able to kind of build that into a larger project, but that sort of initial governance over AI usage ends up being a major factor because ultimately we want to help enable that in a safe and effective way for your organization. And being that enabler, those guardrails for AI usage becomes a really useful tool for organizations to use in order to give constructive outlets.
When you collect this data, where do you send it off? Is it go to SIM or console, or how do people humans ingest the output?
Yeah, so certainly that overview of who's using what technology out there is something that's typically consumed through our console. We also, have dumped that through our API into various corporate reporting infrastructure and data lakes that exist at every organization these days. But the more important piece is how do you change that human behavior? When your employee is reaching for GPT for Excel, which is some plugin for Excel that, as you might imagine, does fancy stuff for you, how do you get them to instead reach for the Azure-hosted instance of OpenAI? And that's where really the name of our company and our focus is, which is we have dynamic engagement. So as you're in the web browser and looking to register for that tool, we can redirect you back over to the place that you're supposed to be or gather more information from you, why there's a gap between the approved tool sets and what you're trying to reach for at that point in time. And that behavioral change is ultimately what we want to see, because that is the solution to what the challenge is that organizations are facing.
That makes sense. So because we are computer scientists and because we're talking AI, I have to ask a recursive question. Do you use AI in your own platform?
Of course we do.
Use AI to detect AI. How do you guys go about using it?
AI today has come to sort of have a synonymous meaning with LLMs.
Yeah.
We don't use LLMs for the analysis that we do.
Right.
We use old-fashioned machine learning, which at one point was the cutting edge of AI.
It still is. It still is.
And a more effective for the challenge that we're applying it to. We do leverage LLMs in a number of other areas, particularly as I sort of remarked on in terms of processing DPAs and privacy policies. impossible to do for 150,000 SaaS companies unless we had some automated assistance. Similarly, as we look at our own internal development, we get a whole lot done with a lot fewer people these days as a result of that.
I mean, I always think AI when there's a data set. When there's a plop of data and I'm going to try and make sense of it, or it's already in some sense labeled. I'll bet a lot of yours is labeled. You build a model. It makes sense. Programming around that procedurally is just not as effective. So it used to be that machine learning AI were these marketing terms that people use. But now I think a lot of that has gone away, and that's a good thing. I don't think anybody's impressed when a brochure says we use machine learning. Who cares? But as an engineer, it's a tool. And if I have data and I can make sense of it using regression or clustering, I should do that. It's moved. That's why I'm very bullish on AI, because I think it's moved from hype to algorithm. It's moved to tool. So I'm glad you guys are using it. I would imagine your customers probably do ask you that question.
Everybody's asking these days, and there's a lot of sensitivity to make sure that their data isn't being used to train, which of course we have very strong safeguards around. But there's a lot of, as you remarked, companies with the data have the most opportunity, right? And we have a very unique data set and very unique visibility for organizations, and that gives a lot of benefits as you start to apply those algorithms.
So if there's AI SWAT teams watching right now, they should call you.
If you're trying to enable your employees to effectively use AI, we can help out.
We've officially turned this into a sales call now. I talk to those SWAT teams all the time, and I think this is an area they should be focused. So hope you'll get a whole bunch of calls from our discussion.
Awesome. Thank you.
Maybe. We'll see. Thanks for stopping by, man. And for those of you watching, we'll see you next time.